Okay, so the allowance essentially for our mapping, what we're looking for here when we're proving is that the person who is currently connecting to the contract, okay, towards the spender is going to be equal to the value. And this needs to be approved. So we're going to check through, we're going to map through this and make sure that it's equal to the value before we can approve. Okay, that's our approve function for our message sender. And that's coming from the spender, right? Because the message sender is the person that we want to be approving. Okay. And again, just like we did with our transfers, we want to emit the event. So we're going to emit the approval event this time. Okay. And what are we going to be emitting here? Well, msg.sender. We have our spender and we have the value. Is that it? Well, remember public return. So we want to return this function. Okay. And awesome. That's it. That's it. Looks like we actually have coded together the smart contract for a mock tether. Tether together. Together, there's a pun there. I don't know what it is. So excellent work coming along and going through these steps. Now, if a lot of this isn't making sense, it's harder to see it. And if there's anything that you don't understand or you're not sure of, then I always encourage you to just stop, rewatch the video, or go back to the sections that are more relevant and specific for what we're doing. So we're just basically building a contract, and we do this in Solidity in the most static way possible by setting up an object as a contract, setting it to the tether, so to the name, then running out our metadata and the important information. So we have our name, symbol, we set the amount, we set up our decimal places because we're using integers, remember, in Solidity, and we can't run because in Solidity we can't work with dots and fractions. So that's why we do this decimal thing. Then we have our transfer event so that we can do transfers. We set up in our transfer event addresses. We want the from address, we want the to address, and we're going to be using the integer values for we're going to set up our value. We do the same thing, very similar for our approval, except for instead of it being from and to, we have an owner and a spender, right? Okay, then we create some key store values with our balance. So we can keep track of the balance, so we can keep track of the balance of each address, and we can do the same thing for the allowance as well, which is checking through the address of each one and then mapping what that is. And I accidentally did something weird there. Okay. We set up a constructor over here where we set the balance of, and then we have our transfer function here. Our transfer function takes an address to where it's being transferred and just a value of what the integer is. Because remember, that's all we're doing with this is transferring. When we transfer, what we want to do is we want to subtract we subtract what the balance is of the current address, the message sender, minus what the value is that we are transferring. Okay, which we're going to see when we start using the transfer function. The transfer of balance of the same thing, only now we're adding it because this is the address to, so we want to be giving them the value, not taking away. Otherwise, whoever's on the other side is not going to be happy. Then finally we call the emit transfer. So we make the event happen with the message sender, to, and value, and we return it true because this is taking the Boolean success of it needing to be true. This is a Bool success, and so we have to return this function as true. Transfer from, very similar, except for it's third party, and we need to have this allowance, and the allowance is checking the address from for the message sender, and that's got to be equal to that minus the value. Okay. And then finally, we have our approve function, which that the spender addresses are equal to the value. And then we return that as true as well. And that in a nutshell is our Solidity contract with full functionality for approval, for transferring, and for transfer from third-party transfers as well. Very awesome coming this far. I know this was tedious, and I know we didn't get to stop that often But hopefully the examples and you taking your time to write things out yourself and me stopping and going over each part has helped you to get a better understanding of the smart contract process right now. Once we start building out the digital bank, get this contract to interact with the bank, and we're going to play with that on our Truffle console as well. So keep it up. A lot of good things coming. I'll see you in the next video.